Knowing what I know now as a data scientist for the last 7 years, if I could completely start over, this is how I would really prioritize learning. You need to understand what you're doing before you learn how to do it. So I'm breaking this video into 3 phases: building your intuition, learning and practicing hands-on, and third, getting a job. Because we know learning data science is very different from learning how to get a job. For those of you who may not know me, I'm Priya. I'm currently a senior data scientist at Stripe. I used to be at Uber and I used to do physics at U Chicago. Let's get straight into phase 1, building your intuition. I really think that this is the section that most people skip. It is the most important. You need to understand the math. If you're going to call model.fit, but you can't explain why this model works under the hood, I would never listen to you in a meeting. Intuition is really what separates someone from just knowing that you need to import sklearn from someone who can actually design a system that works for a business. So because of this, my first recommendation, it is a free book that you can find online. It is called Understanding Deep Learning. It's not a coding book. It's really a thinking book. It's very intuitive. It gives you qualitative information about supervised models, unsupervised models, different regression patterns, different ways you can hypertune. It really goes through why you would choose a certain model, what that model actually does under the hood, how you could optimize the model, and how you can evaluate the model. And yes, it really starts from the beginning. It's not just about deep learning. It's also really just giving you statistical intuition. And there is math in there, but there's not that much math. It's not a math book. It's a learning book. I use this as a textbook. Like if I'm trying to understand something holistically, I will go reference this book, highlight things, take notes on my iPad or in my notebooks. Use this as your morning read for like the next month and see how you feel about data science. Because if you don't enjoy the book, you're probably not going to enjoy data science. The second recommendation I have, it's Introduction to Statistical Learning with Applications in Python. I know if you have gotten an undergrad degree or a master's degree in anything adjacent to data science, you have seen this book. It is the OG. When you truly understand linear algebra, statistics, probability, you can understand a wide variety of things. You could build the right data models to create metrics for a dashboard. You could also work on experimentation and really understand why a certain feature needs to be A/B tested and be able to evaluate that kind of A/B test experimentation framework, like create the design and evaluate it. And you could also do all of the ML modeling. Data science is an amalgamation of a lot of things. This book really encapsulates everything you would need to know, really. It's not like I sit around and read this book every day, but if you are a beginner and you've never taken these intro courses or you need to brush up, you got to start here. You can find the free PDF online. It covers regression to tree-based methods to clustering, and it also explains intuition, not just the formulas. But I think you could also go through MIT OpenCourseWare, and they have different textbook recommendations and syllabi that all of the students at MIT going through a specific class have to do. So all of these resources exist for you to understand and build tuition within data science and understand even which concepts are relevant, because when you're first starting out, it is a lot. A big tip I have is using AI as your study partner here. Ask Claude to just quiz you on basic data science concepts to figure out what your weaknesses and strengths are. Like I have a personal curriculum. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. I have a lot of resources across MIT OpenCourseWare, different textbook segments and chapters, different DataCamp courses that I want to use. Like these are all things I built out months ago. And whenever I have free time, which isn't that much lately, I do go through it. Phase 2 is learning and practicing. This is a very practical situation where I think a lot of people get stuck in a loop of I don't even know what to do, but you have to start. You need a structured path where you're learning, writing code, making mistakes, writing more code, learning more. This needs to be a constant feedback loop. And this is where I'm really excited that DataCamp is sponsoring this portion of the video. I actually took their Bayesian probability course just a couple months ago because as someone who's like a senior data scientist, you really need to pick up things quickly if you're going to work on complicated systems. And over one weekend, a couple months ago, I really needed to understand the differences between Bayesian and frequentist methods. And I just went through the first section of DataCamp's course and it was so enlightening. Like it literally dumbed it down for me and it was so great. If you're starting out, I would probably start with something like the associate data science track within DataCamp, because this track really includes like that amalgamation of kind of all of the little things that you would need to know, especially if you're starting from scratch. This track would take you through all of the Python basics, like panda stats, data visualization, all of the things that you would need to know, even if you don't become a DS and you become a DA, like a data analyst, and then you want to become a DS. There's a lot of overlap between all of these things. So I think understanding the fundamentals is really important. important. And then you could go into hypothesis testing, experimentation, the ML stuff, which I personally think is the most fun. And all of that's in this track within DataCamp. I think what's great about this track is you're writing real Python from your very first lesson. Like, you're not really just sitting through 2 hours of lectures and fantasizing about, oh, I know all of these things now, but not actually applying it practically. Test it out to see if you actually understood it. And if you didn't, learn again and test again. I think the tracks help you if you're newer or you know exactly what you want, because my next recommendation is the machine learning scientist track. And I think this is really great if you know you want to be a data scientist. Like, you're not trying to be an analyst, or you want like very deep statistical intuition to be able to solve like challenging company problems and work with ML engineers and work with software engineers. This is kind of what I do in my day-to-day. It's like a mix of analysis, but also a lot of ML. If you've already done the associate track or you're very confident with your Python basics, then you could go into this, which would cover supervised learning, unsupervised, and everything you learned from the deep learning book, you can actually practice immediately. So learning XGBoost, feature engineering, model validation, NLP features, which are super useful with LLMs now, and just like being able to tackle data sets as they come to you. If you want some sort of like curriculum that is built already for you, DataCamp could be a great solution for you. I have a link in my description if you want to support the channel. That would be really great. Let's go on to the next phase. Phase 3 is getting the job. Okay, this is like the hard part, because everything we've learned until now, like, that's very important for the job, because when you have behavioral interviews, you have algorithm interviews, like, you need to riff off of everything you've previously seen in the workforce, everything you worked on. So having this deep intuition is super important, but honestly, getting a job is extremely algorithmic. You need to generally understand case studies. If you have a take-home ML assignment, just understand the basics of that. Like, it's very formulaic. And because of that, I think my fourth resource recommendation would be Data Lemur and Ace the Data Science Interview. Like, those two resources, I use them when I was looking for jobs like a year and a half ago. I was at Uber. I was like, okay, I'm ready to leave. I took Stripe pretty quickly. And I was literally practicing Data Lemur, actually. Like, I would pick the Data Lemur hards because I know every data scientist, whether you're a DA or a DS, you will absolutely have a SQL interview. And yes, even with Claude, you will need to know how to code in SQL if you want to get a job. Data Lemur, fantastic, free resource. Fortunately, they got some of their funding cut from the government, so please use them. Ace the Data Science Interview is also so good. It does have like an algorithm section where you go through different leak code style questions. I don't know if it's as relevant. It really depends on what kind of data science interview you're going to have, and you have to check Glassdoor to see what the questions are going to be based on the company and the role. But really, everything in that book, I use that book. I'm in LA right now. You know, my textbook is in New York, but I have this textbook. Everything I'm recommending to you, I have paid for previously and used. I think the probability and stats chapters are particularly good because now I work on A/B testing experimentation a lot. But before this job, I was a data scientist for 5 years and did no experimentation. So reading everything in Ace this Data Science Interview and practicing what I would do if I did have an experiment was super useful. So this is my general framework. But what I would prioritize is not grinding on leak code immediately. You need intuition, you need to practice, and then you can start looking for the job. You need to understand the full holistic view, especially now with like a lot of jobs being gone. You're expected to be a generalist and do everything. Building a habit to study is much harder than picking the topic. So if you are in some sort of paralysis, please go to any resource, anything that I mentioned. Send me a comment. I will help you. I will give you motivation. You just need to start, really. Making mistakes and just plugging along is why I've been successful in the data science field. I am not by any means smarter than my peers. I just keep going for it. And that's what you need to do too. Thanks so much for watching this video. All of the DataCamp links are in my description. Comment down below if you have any other resources that you found useful, because this needs to be a shared situation where we all talk about what works for us and something's going to work for someone. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys at the next one.